All right, so we are live. Good evening. It is yours truly, Dr. Pierre, your favorite board certified internist, host of the Real Physician Reacts. And now, if this is the first time you're catching this live series, every week we try, right? I'll be honest. Like every week, I'll just start it. Every week, I come on here live Thursday evenings to give my personal thoughts on something that comes across my timeline, that someone like hits me in my inbox and, hey man, you should talk about this, especially from a physician's point of view. If you caught last week, we talked about the uncomfortable discussion of death, and more importantly, the fact that because so much was happening around us, that I just knew it was becoming an overload, and especially from an emotional standpoint for a lot of people who are not equipped. And if you have not had a chance, make sure, obviously, you're subscribed to the channel. You're on my YouTube channel for sure. But more importantly, make sure you catch last week's episode just so you can kind of get in the mindset, right? Because we talked about the fact that because of death is unfortunately all around us, especially with these mass shootings, that was kind of the topic of our discussion, that a lot of people were having to either internalize it or block it off completely, like there was some robot, right? Which again, if you are not in the positions, but I'm a physician, I train in a hospital, I take care of hospitalized patients, so I've been trained to deal with death at a level that I don't think most people are trained to deal with death, unfortunately. But unfortunately, because of what's happening here in this country, around the world, with COVID, with the pandemic, with mass shootings, that a lot of people have been having to face that kind of head on. And an unfortunate thing I talked about last week, right? I said last week, because we were talking about mass shootings, I said, you know what? Because at the time we were talking about the Texas shooting, I said, you know what? I think by the time some people catch this video, there's going to be likely another mass shooting, so it won't even be the most recent mass shooting, right? So I can't even in this video talk about, hey, the most recent mass shooting, because you may be all kind of confused because you're like, nah, I thought the most recent mass shooting happened over here. And today we're going to tie in essentially two discussions. One, another mass shooting that occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma at a medical clinic, medical center, and probably another underlying thing which I don't think a lot of people even think about or has came up in like serious discussion, the aspect of violence on healthcare workers in their workplace. Now, if you have caught news probably in the past 48 hours, again, by the time I'm recording this, you know that we had a patient who was named, let's see, Michael Lewis, right? Who was named as Michael Lewis, a disgruntled patient who went into his surgeon's office and gunned down four people, shot others, but gunned down four people and murdered four others because of the fact that his pain was not controlled. I want us to think about that. All right. I want us to think about that. I want us to process that, before we try to like think about mental health and everything else, let's just process the bare bones. You had a patient who was not happy with the service that was provided to them by their surgeon, and to take it out on that person, they say they went and bought guns to kill that person. And mind you, they bought guns like I think recently. I think I saw some report that said they bought them that day. So let's think about what that means just overall. And I've talked about this on previous lives. I talked about this on podcasts as well when I kind of discussed, me going through my own personal lawsuit. Whereas as a physician, you can do everything by the book. You can, cross every T, dot every I. And because the result doesn't occur, because it's not guaranteed. Like, it's one of the things I say in a hospital, you are not guaranteed to leave the hospital just because you come in the hospital. It's not a guarantee at all. Like, that's why I'm so thankful when I am able to discharge a patient, because I know that's not a guarantee. Like, I know a person next to you ain't going to leave here. I know the person next to you may not leave here. So it's not a guarantee to leave the hospital. So anytime that happens, like, my patient's always like, you're just happy. Yeah, I'm happy because I'm happy to kick you out of here. I say this all the time. So here you have a process in medicine that is not a perfect exact science. It never has been and never will be. It's never been 100% successful. But here you have a society, right? And it's not just this gunman, but here you have a society that props up, physicians as, if you are not 100% correct, like, I'm okay to be upset and everything else under the sun. And, and in this case here, murder you. I'm okay with murdering you because you did not do everything you said you were going to do. Like, because he was an orthopedic surgeon, and because you did not treat my pain to the best of what I thought you should be able to treat my pain, I'm coming to murder you. Right? Let's which again is just sickening when you think about what that means, right? Let's I just want to kind of look at our this article that kind of mentioned. Let me supersize myself. Perfect. So again, Tulsa gunman ranted to his surgeon that then bought a rifle 3 hours before the hospital massacre, right? And then again, obviously, I don't even want to focus on the gunman, right? Like let's focus on the lives that are forever lost, right? Dr. Preston Phillips, I apologize, an orthopedic surgeon who performed the back surgery on him. It looks like Lewis was released on the 24th. Again, May 24th, but still continued to have pain. Looks like he complained several times over the past few days. Now, again, let's just think about that. He was discharged from the hospital May 24th. Y'all, it is June 2nd. So not like a little bit over a week went by, and because his pain was not controlled, in a little bit over a week, he decided, I'm going to gun down this person here, right? Just absolutely sad. At 2 p.m. same day, Lewis purchased the AR-15 style rifle from the local store, right? Again, we're not here to talk about gun control, but we're here to talk about gun control. The fact that he's able to buy this assault style weapon, right? And he's not in the military, so I don't know who he's insulting except other people, because that's what you buy a weapon like this for, right? He was able to buy it that day, go down to the hospital, and shoot 4 other people, right? But again, we're not focusing on him. He was able, a second orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Stephanie Hussein, was also killed in the shooting, as well as 2 other victims, Amanda Glenn and William Love, who accompanied a patient to an appointment here, right? Let's stop that. Let's stop that right there, y'all. So not only does he kill the surgeon who did the surgery, he also kills another surgeon in the office. He also kills the medical receptionist. And he also kills a bystander who happened to be accompanying somebody on their appointment, y'all. Like, in what world, in what scenario is this okay? Like, let's just pause right there. In what world, what scenario is it even okay for that, train of events to occur, and for us not to be like, wow, something is happening? And I think because of how it occurred, aka the mass shooting, aka the AR-15 usage, I think what's going to get swept under the rug is that violence against healthcare workers is deemed very normal in this country. I'm not going to speak about other countries, but in this country, violence against healthcare workers is deemed extremely normal, right? Like, let's take a look at a letter written by the American Hospital Association to the Attorney General, right? So you guys can understand like just how significant, just how severe this problem is. The AHA, which is the American Hospital Association, urges the DOJ to protect healthcare workers from workplace violence, right? So again, so this isn't just me coming off the cuff talking about like, oh, we should really protect the healthcare workers. No, this is a known problem that we have been dealing with for a long time. This is a known problem. If you talk to nurses, they have been dealing with this issue for a long time. If you talk to my emergency medicine doctors, this is a known problem that they have been dealing with for a long time. And when we see this accumulate up to the point where someone goes to shoot their doctor, it should not be a surprise to anyone, especially in this country, because you know how this country feels about their guns, right? We should not be surprised that in this country, people feel like, you know what, a logical step is to go and gun down the doctor who took care of me because my pain isn't controlled. That is a logical step in this country because of how we allow violence against healthcare workers to be brushed under the sun, right? So let's go back to let's go back to this video right here. So I want you guys to see the letter. Let me make myself smaller. Wrong one. Let me make myself smaller. Oh, there you go. Let me see here. I want to read this letter. Dear Attorney General Garland, on behalf of the nearly 5,000 member hospitals, health systems, other health organizations, our clinician partners, which include more than 270,000 affiliated physicians, 2 million nurses and other caregivers, and 43,000 healthcare leaders who belong to our professional membership organizations, request your support for legislation that will protect healthcare workers from assault and intimidation. Like, I just want you to kind of focus on this line here. Studies indicate that 44% of nurses report experiencing physical violence and 68% experience verbal violence during this pandemic, right? And I wanted to make sure I stopped and highlighted that because I think the pandemic, right, showed a lot of people's true colors. Here we are, we had healthcare workers who were fighting in the front lines to protect other people from a deadly virus that essentially stopped the whole world. And you had people verbally accosting them, physically accosting them because of visiting restrictions, because of mask requirements. Again, we're not even thinking about the shooting, thinking about the fact that, hey, I have a family, but I'm here taking care of patients who have this known deadly virus that it is possible that I can bring back to my family. But that's not enough. I then have to deal with the fact that I'm going to have an unruly family member or patient, friend, or somebody, even sometimes a patient, talk to me any kind of way, like physically accost me just because I'm trying to protect their life, my life, my family. Like, think about that, right? And what's unfortunate, and what a lot of the studies have kind of discussed, is that even though the amount of cases of physical and verbal abuse, like if you think about the number of cases, it gets severely underreported. Why? And one reason only is that a lot of us have come to the fact that we just assume that it's a part of the job. We just assume it is a part of the job to face verbal insults. Or assaults, right? We feel it's a part of the job to face physical assault, right? We think that that's normal, right? Imagine you working at Chick-fil-A, shout out to Chick-fil-A. Imagine you're working at Burger King. Imagine you're working at Publix. Imagine you're working at Walmart. And in the back of your mind, you're telling yourself it is normal to have someone verbally yell at me or like attempt to beat me up or possibly beat me up. Like, I'm clocking in knowing that someone may yell at me today. I'm clocking in knowing that someone may try to beat me up today. That is a normal train of thought that happens across this country for my healthcare professionals. Again, I'm a hospitalist physician. I work in the hospital, acute care center. I work in a long-term acute care center. I work in rehabs, right? Like it is like so known that it doesn't even like shock us when we hear like, oh, they had to call security on so-and-so. They had to call security on like that doesn't even move you. But imagine if you were going to work, again, you're working at Publix, you're working at Walmart, you're working at Chick-fil-A, right? And someone said like, man, you had a customer like climb over the counter to try to fight me, right? Like, that would make news everywhere, right? That would be news everywhere. Like, you would have memes, you would have people talking about it. Like, there's this one video, I forget, I want to say it's either Taco Bell or KFC, right? It's a funny video, but you had, and it was a skit, but it was someone looking for one of the healthcare workers, not even healthcare worker, one of the workers, right? I think it's Taco Bell or it was talking about KFC, and they were looking for one of the workers to say like, hey, like, I heard you were talking to my boyfriend, right? And then you see this people gang up on them. You're like, hold on, you're not gonna like attack my coworker, right? Like, but in healthcare, we don't do that because we're so used to that happening. We're like, oh, just call code gray, just call security. Like, oh, okay, I got, someone tried to hit me, someone tried, like, we have just come accustomed to it because we know we're in a system that just kind of allows it to go. So when you have an instance where you have a person who, because they did not get the result that they expected, they feel they're in their right to go buy a rifle to kill the doctor, to kill whoever else is in that building because they didn't get the result that they were expected, right? Like, this cannot be just brushed under, like, oh my God, mass shooting, mental health, everything else, right? And we talked last week with the Texas school shooting. And I saw people commenting, oh, we should arm the teachers. Are you kidding me? Like, we should arm the teachers, and that's how we'll protect more elementary kids from being gunned down. Not the fact that, man, we should probably make it difficult for people to get gunned down. No, let's arm the teachers, right, and make it so that if they do get attempted to be gunned down, there's like a firefight. And I saw someone post it. I shared it on my Instagram page, Instagram stories, that they reference, oh, what do you think? Give me the scenario that there's a gunman in, a school, and you have a black male teacher, right, who happens to be carrying a gun. Like, what do you think is likely going to occur? Right? Like, and again, if you're honest with yourself, you're saying that black man probably shouldn't be wearing a gun, right? So now, like, I'm waiting, right? I'm just waiting for someone to hop in their comments to make a post to say, man, we should now start arming the doctors. We should now start arming the medical receptionist. We should now start arming patients who come. Like, if you're a patient, you're going to your doctor's appointment, maybe you should bring a gun, right? Because someone out here, probably someone who will watch this video, say, man, well, if they had a gun, then he wouldn't have been able to gun all 4 of them down, right? Someone's going to say that. And that's what's crazy. That is what's crazy with this. And I don't even like to call it a debate, but this discussion on this public health emergency on mass shooting is that when people on the other side are not giving anything viable to, like, credible, like, means of discussion, right? You almost have to ignore them. But again, I don't want it to get swept under the rug. Like, violence against doctors and nurses is common as can be. And mind you, we don't report it. Like, it just, we don't report it. We don't get to the point where we're like, all right, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to press charges. We don't even get all that because we're like, man, I got so many other patients to take care of. Like, I'm not going to deal with that. Right. I'm not going to deal with it. I had a patient. It wasn't even a patient of mine at one of my facilities. So I great scenario. Like, it was like, and it reminded me of that person there. Like, so I come into the hospital. I park, doctor's parking lot towards the front. And then I just see this random car just kind of like make this illegal U-turn, and they come into our parking lot and they park right next to me. I know it's not a doctor because I can see who was in it, right? And this person just kind of storms out of his car. And he's at the front desk, right? And he's demanding to see one of the nurses that worked at the hospital, right? And he's like, I want to see this nurse. I want to see this nurse. And I can tell this guy is very angry, right? So clearly, I'm like, yeah, this guy does not need to be nowhere near the nurse he's looking for, because clearly he is not in a right mind to do something that would make sense, right? He's in the type of mindset that someone's gonna likely get hurt if he happens to see that nurse. So first again, I'm a big guy, right? I'm a big guy. I'm taller than the guy. I'm kind of looking down on him, and I'm talking to him, trying to calm him down. And he's going a mile a minute about how bad the care was and how the nurse, didn't respect them and didn't give him his pain medication, right? Which we can have a whole different conversation on pain control and what patients feel their pain control should be out in the world, right? We could have a whole discussion on that. But like, I spent about 10, 15 minutes just calming this guy down, right? Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to let him get to my nurse, right? Because I don't know what he's going to do if he sees my nurse. I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm not going to let that opportunity go down anyways. So fortunately, I was able to kind of calm down the situation after talking to him about 15 minutes, and he kind of went on his way. But I told the security, I said, hey, this is a person that should be on the no visit list. Like, there should be zero reason why this person should ever be able to walk into our building, right? But again, he, as confident as he was able, he just felt that he should be able to just kind of walk in. I want to walk in, I want to talk to the nurse, right? Because again, especially again, my nurses, first of all, shout out to my nurses, because I know, like, as a physician, I'll be honest, I'm in the hospital, right? As a physician, I'm not with my patients 12 hours a day, right? That's not it. I'm not with my patients 12 hours a day. But the people who are, they're the ones who typically have to deal with the brunt of anger from a patient. They're the ones who typically have to deal with the brunt of anger from a family member, right? They're the ones who typically have to deal with the brunt of not getting, pain control, in a timely manner, not getting their antibiotics or whatever. They're the ones who or their food's not correct, right? The amount of people who complain about food is a whole whatever. They're the ones who have to deal with that for 12 hours, right? Like, they have to sit there, they have to take it, they have to hear the buzzers, and a lot of the violence is typically affected towards them. It's typically geared towards them, right? I've had patients say verbal costs. I've had assaults. I've had patients with racial insults against my nurses, right? Again, it's funny because you know me, right? Which again, they hold on discussion. Physical, right? And young, old, trying to beat up my nurses, right? Because they feel like they're in their right to put their hands on us healthcare workers. And I think this pandemic, if it didn't show you anything, this pandemic showed that you guys are very, and I hate to say you guys to lump you all together, right? But we're just talking. There's a lot of people very comfortable with abusing healthcare workers, right? Dr. Mclaughlin, who's a funny ophthalmologist, he did a great TikTok. I'll put it in the description once I find it. But he kind of talked about how early pandemic, everyone was outside cheering us. They had signs, they had cards. The hospitals did too, right? Cards and everything. But then, like a year and a half into the pandemic, those same people had like pitchforks and they were yelling at us. They were like they were telling us we were faking the disease. The same people, right, who loved us before hated us afterwards, right? And they had no problem showing that they hated us, right? They had no problem going to our workplace, which is supposed to be our safe place, and letting us know that they don't like what we are doing, right, for the patients, right? Like, it's craziness on top of everything, right? So when I see what occurred with Dr. Phillips, and again, let me not miss, I do not want to miss anyone's name, Dr. Stephanie Houston, Amanda Glenn, William Love, right? When I see what occurred with them, right, my heart goes out to them because they are, again, victims of a society who is okay being violent to the people who are literally trained and paid to take care of them. Like, again, let me say that again so we can make sure we get that fully. People in this society, right, are okay being violent against the people who are trained and paid, right, to take care of them. Like if that's not irony, if that's not sad, I don't know what is. And the question is, what did we do from here, right? Because I know, because of this most recent mass shooting, and again, I keep saying most recent. Again, this is June 2nd. Maybe unfortunately by the time I record another Real Physician Reacts, there may be another one, right? Because unfortunately that's how it's been going. By the chance that you have, healthcare workers saying, man, what can we do after this? Right? Because no, we're not going to arm all healthcare workers to go in the facility. We're not going to do that. Not going to happen. Right? One, because again, I will tell you for myself, right? Again, remember Real Physician Reacts, right? I am a Black male in the United States. I'm not carrying no gun around, right? So like some cop can gun me down and say, I did not know this guy was a esteemed physician in the community. I'm not, because they don't know, but they don't ask those types of questions when they shoot us, So you're not going to see me volunteering to carrying a gun while I go see my patients who's recovering from COVID and COPD and pneumonia, and like that's not going to happen, right? So that any person you see even mention that maybe we should arm like the healthcare workers, tell them to stop it now. Tell them Dr. Barry, who has more common sense than a lot of people, is not going to be walking around with no gun. For a police officer to mistake, even I could be wearing white coat, maybe I'm just wearing scrubs, to mistake him for an assailant and shoot him and then ask the questions later. Not going to happen. But we have to, especially in this society, we have to really start recognizing that, like, man, it is very real and very dangerous for a lot of our healthcare workers. And if we aren't more proactive in trying to stop the violence, right? And even I'll talk to my healthcare workers. We have to get to the point where when someone's violent to you in the hospital, like we got to go to full court Nelson and press charges. Like we have to start making examples of people who are violent against us, right? And again, like I think I saw one article that talked about, the 4 types of violence. Let me see if I can pull that up for us. Let's see. Oh yeah, let me pull that up. I think it's a good one too, just so people can kind of get an idea of the type of violence that we typically have to face. So this here, and it looks like it was out of the New England Journal of Medicine. Shout out to New England Journal of Medicine. Talked about the 4 types of violence that occurs in the workplace. Let me big up that, make it screen a little bit bigger. The first type is by perpetrators who have no association with the workplace or employee. So this is just a random Joe Blow ran up into a facility to assault. The second is the assailant is a customer or patient of the workplace or employee. So again, this is this instance in Tulsa where this Mr. Lewis was a patient of Dr. Phillips. The third type is when the attacker is a current or former employee of the workplace. That happens too, right? Again, like, yes, I'm talking about protecting ourselves against family members of patients and patients themselves, but there's some co-workers out there who need to not be there, right? Because, again, especially for my nursing, because they're not feeling protected because of how that co-worker acts towards them. The fourth type occurs when the perpetrator has a personal relationship with the employee, but not with the workplace, right? So again, that's something where, like, again, maybe it's a spouse or a friend who comes to do violence against, that employee in particular, but they say, you know what, I'm gonna go to your job, right? I'm gonna go to your job. Why? Because I feel comfortable going to your job to try to assault you. Think again, I feel comfortable going to your job to assault you, right? Like, that's the mindset of like that last type. So again, it's unfortunate that not even a week in here on the channel, we have to speak about another mass shooting. Unfortunate that in this example, the mass shooting we're having to speak about is occurring against healthcare workers, which again ties me in as well, right? I'm a healthcare worker, like, so the public health brain, the medical brain, all tied into this instance here. But the question becomes, what do we do, right? Like, what do we do? And again, I don't want us to only stop at like, oh, we got to do something about gun control, because that's still, and that's why I did this episode specifically about how not that there is now violence against healthcare workers, but that there is more violence against health workers, right? I want to make sure like we really drive home the fact that people know that like this violence against healthcare workers is not a new thing. It's not a new phenomenon. This pandemic obviously highlighted a lot of it, but it's been happening even before the pandemic. Again, my nurses, my emergency room physicians, those who are in the acute care settings deal with this a lot. And all because, especially with these patients, all because patients are expecting perfect results from imperfect humans, right? They're expecting the most lavish results for, and again, medicine is a science, right? Again, you sprinkle here, and you hope you have the best result. But when you don't have this best result for your patient, right? Like, should you now be worried that this patient may come out to, like, if I can't control my patient's blood pressure, do I need to worry that my patient may come out to try to gun me down, right? If I can't control my patient's blood pressure, right, or I can't help them lose weight, do I need to be concerned now that they may gun me down? If I can't get rid of their end stage cancer, do I now need to be concerned that they may gun me down, right? Like, Jen, think about the standards that are being placed on physicians that are just unfair, right? Just think about that. The next time, again, we have to process, another tragedy that especially happens in the workplace, right? Especially for my healthcare workers, man. So again, I am yours truly, Dr. Barry Pierre, again, board certified internist, host of lots of different things. Real Physician Reacts, this live show you just watched. Medicine Mondays, make sure you catch next week's episode of Medicine Mondays. The Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry podcast. Again, all links will be in the show notes for any articles that I may have posted. You guys be blessed. Have a great and hopefully safe weekend. And God willing, I hope to see you guys next week.